Oh, yay.
Over here.
Ready? Well, good evening. Welcome to the Valley County Planning and Zoning Commission's February 13th regular meeting. The hour is 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and have a roll call.
Commissioner Schneider,
Here.
Potter,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
Mabe,
Here.
Oyarzo.
Here.
All commissioners are in attendance.
Great, thank you. Having a quorum, we'll proceed with our business. First item on our agenda this evening is the minutes from January 9th, 2025. Is there any motions, corrections, additions to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 9th, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2025. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And motion has passed. Okay, first item under new business this evening is conditional use permit 20-36 Highway 55. It's an amendment and an extension request. Due to the absence of the applicant, due to some emergency situations that they're dealing with, they're not going to be here this evening. I want to ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to testify on that particular amendment, whether you can come back at a future date or whether you cannot and would like to say anything this evening. Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and, is there a time, Cinda, that they requested that to be tabled to?
March 13th at 6 p.m.
Okay, so March 13th. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we move CUP 20-36 Highway 55 amendment and extension request. Be moved to March 16th, 13th.
Yeah,
To March 13th.
March 13th. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is to table conditional use permit 20-36 Highway 55 amendment and extension request to March 13th regular meeting at 6 p.m. Is there any further discussion?
Chairman, that has an expiration of February 23rd. This is an extension. You want to include in the motion that it'll be extended until that time,
Until that meeting.
until that meeting?
I think that would be appropriate if the maker of the motion and the seconder agree.
I would agree.
Aye.
You agree?
Aye, Captain.
Okay. Motion has been amended to extend the CUP expiration until that March 13th meeting. Now, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion has carried and will be tabled till March 13th. Okay, next up is variance 24-007, the Hoag setback variance. Is there any ex parte conflicts or conflicts of interest?
No.
No. And hearing none, we'll go ahead and have the staff report on the variance. Cinda?
Okay, the staff report for variance 24-007 Hodge setback. The applicant is Eric Hodge. The property is 326 West Tamarack Falls Road in Smiling Julie subdivision lot 3. The property is 0.42 acres. And this is a request for a variance to relax the setbacks from the high water line of the stream from the required 30 feet to 10 feet, and then from the front property line from the required 20 feet to 15 feet. The applicant intends to build a home 10 feet from the high water line. The stream is located on the northern portion of the lot. The front setback line is from the property line along West Tamarack Falls Road. The 0.42 acre site is addressed at 326 West Tamarack Falls Road. Access is from West Tamarack Falls Road, a public road. The setbacks are listed. Smiling Julie subdivision was recorded September 14th, 1959. The application was submitted on December 16th. Proper legal notice was completed. Mike Reno, Central District Health, has no objections to this proposal, provided the dwelling is served by Central Services. Jess Ellis, Donnelly Fire Marshal, has no comments or concerns. Emily Hart, McCall Airport Manager, has no comments. DEQ provided their boilerplate standard letter on air quality, wastewater, drinking water, surface water, solid waste, hazardous waste, water quality, groundwater contamination, and best management practices. Public comments received. Devin and Jennifer Delaney at 2434 and 2432 Paladin Road support the setback variances. Approval would consider the needs of property owners with unique property constraints while adhering to the goals of the Valley County regulations. There would be minimal environmental impact. Ron and Judy Boyd, 2431 Paladin Road, support the variances. Brian Lords, 2453 Maverick Road, has no objection to the variance and thinks it makes sense given the slope, lot shape, and stream location. Andrew Loyce, 2451 Maverick Road, owns the property across the stream from the site. The variance from the front property line seems reasonable. The requested setback from the high water line does not. Setbacks and riparian buffers are meant to protect water quality, habitat, and property from erosion and flooding. Listed the standards for variances out of the Title IX of the Valley County Code, and then it states for setbacks, it's supposed to be setback 30 feet from the high water line. And then staff questions and comments. The lots within the Donnelly Fire District and North Lake Recreational Sewer and Water District both were noticed. It's within Water District number 65. It's not within an irrigation district. Previous variances issued were on the southern portion of the subdivision, and we attached the location of those. The home will be connected to central sewer services and an individual well. The Planning and Zoning Commission needs to determine if the future development of the neighborhood would be inhibited by the variance and if it complies with the criteria for a variance. The commission decision would be a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. BMPs such as silt fencing and straw wattles around the construction site are required due to the proximity to the stream. Will the roof line be designed so snow will not slide into the high water area of the stream? How high above the high water line of the creek will the first floor of the structure be, including ductwork? Can you move the building site towards West Tamarack Falls Road? And then I kind of put together a sketch and attached it. Can you use your other lot line, your other lot that you own, which is lot 2, in order to have a larger footprint that does not require the reduction in setback from the high water line? And I recommend a better site plan be provided that is prepared to scale, showing the topography in the creek. If I can show you some visuals. This is the site plan that was submitted, and I had a hard time interpreting where things are, but there were some really good pictures submitted by the applicant where he imposed it on the actual site. The creek is over here. So it's just a stream.
And is that the 15-foot request, or is that the?
That's the 10-foot request. They
10-foot
want to be 10
request.
feet from the high water line.
Okay.
And then they want to be on this side 15 feet from the right-of-way line, not the actual traveled way. And then here's another picture. It shows the drive approach will be from this direction. Footprint. There's a steep slope at the property line for the next door parcel. They've kind of shown, the grades here and where they want to kind of sink this into the hill. And then the creek is over on the other side. Okay, this is kind of a different picture here. I know that I think there were some variances
What's the,
up in this area too, huh?
it's north to the top of the screen, or is it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is.
And is that West Mountain? I can't read that. Is that West Mountain Road?
This is West Mountain Road.
Okay.
This is Tamarack Falls Road, and then you come up and then go up.
Okay, and so that's the business right there on the corner.
Yeah, and this is the drainage off the mountain going this direction. Okay, and then kind of my sketch, which isn't very precise, kind of showed, some, this is the 20 feet. This is a 7.5 back here. And then they should be the 30 feet from the high water line. I kind of did some rough drawing.
So Cinda, some of the pictures that were submitted with the application appeared to show a significant amount of excavation already taking place. Was that premature before a building permit, or what's the scenario here?
You will have to ask the applicant, but we allow excavation before a building permit. You just can't pour concrete before a building permit.
Okay.
Is this a seasonal creek, stream? Do we know?
Annual.
And
Runs all the time.
that's a question to be confirmed by the applicant. And that ends my staff report.
Are there additional questions for the staff at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant. If you'd come up and state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone.
All right. Bear with me. This is my first time doing anything like this. It's not my natural routine, so a little nervous, but hopefully you'll bear with me in my roughness. My name is Eric Hodge. I own this property here that we've been looking at here. And obviously, a couple questions. I think I'll just address a couple of them first because I heard some questions. I'll just address those before I share what I wanted to share. The creek is year-round. It flows year-round. It's about 24 inches across when the water's narrowed up. It's fairly wavering, but it goes fairly straight down the property line as I kind of showed it. I try to do a pretty good job there, but it's a pretty darn straight creek line across there. The excavation was completed for just access. There's no excavation as far as footings or anything like that. It was just leveled access for a camper or a trailer, or just for just site access, because it was a bit of a hillside slope. So just access excavation is the only thing that has been done, and then some retention with boulders in order to keep the eroding downhill side. That's about another 20-foot drop down to the lot below, and then it's about 20 foot above to the road above. So it's a real steep pitch. But I think that may have been all the questions that I heard about excavation in the creek and its being year round. So yeah, it's very controlled creek. I will say that it doesn't rise, it doesn't go down. It's crazy how it is. It is always the same almost. It might go a little bit more with some of the snow melt, but it's amazing how consistent the creek is. So it's not a variable height in something like a collector creek. It's a spring-fed creek. So hopefully that answers some of the questions I heard. I'm not sure if I remember them all, but if you don't mind, I guess I'll jump into my talking points.
Go ahead, and I assume that you're going to answer some of the staff's questions in your presentation.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I think I can get some of that conquered in this. I'm not the best at ad libs, so
You're doing fine. You're doing great.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Appreciate that. A little boost. All right. So here we go. So the variance I've requested, the variances, plural I should say, are requested to fit a standard size house in a safe location on the parcel. The riparian creekside areas will be protected and constructed indefinitely, or through construction and indefinitely. We value that creek, and it's actually one of our favorite parts about the property. And we by no means want to disrupt anything or cause any kind of water contamination, especially with the creek or through the lake and everything else. I mean, we're community partners. So I really, to me, that's a very important aspect of this project. I do not want to seek to, get permits to try to relocate the creek to the property edge, but rather keep its natural characteristics in the buffer between Maverick Road and the creek, which is approximately 20 feet into my property. Pretty consistent across the entire length of the east-west property line. That keeps it away from the road. It's a really beautiful little section, and we don't want to disrupt that. And we would rather leave it exactly where it's at, untouched. So the house will technically provide the house will technically provide protection for the creek, preventing vehicle-induced erosion and affiliated toxins from nearing the creek proximity. By putting the house where it's at, all traffic, parking, any access, snow control, anything that would be activities on the property would stay on the front side, preventing anything on the back side from ongoing disruptions or cars nearing it or anything like that. So it would be basically, once construction is complete, it would be just a sealed off area from the property for access. Another thing here is, so Tamarack Falls Road, the road that she pointed out that goes by the business you talked about and goes up, is easily an 11% grade, maybe more. So the entire surroundings of this particular lot is on grade, where the north-south lots, or the north-south roads, Paladin and Maverick, they plane out and they are very level. But the roads surrounding this property are steep, and 11% probably would be a good estimation. But it's probably on both sides, Maverick and the Tamarack Falls Road. It is a very steep lot for access. Let's see, and then the parcel that road is about only 15 feet wide, restricting parking access and ability to stop, and then get moving again uphill. If anybody stops on that hill, you're pretty much backing down and going right to run it at again. So with that, establishing a suitable approach, driveway, and parking area that allows emergency vehicles to access the property for response to potential house fire or respond to medical emergencies is critical due to the steep, rugged hillside terrain. And that's part of the reason that the house is positioned in that cave of a landslide right there, so that you can porpoise over the hill and land on a flat approach through the driveway, where it would allow not only access for myself to pull into a garage and be safe there, manage snow, but more importantly, I have 2 kids under 2, and to be able to have, fire protection for access for a fire truck and or an ambulance to be able to come on site and not be on an 11% grade, especially in winter when we all know that that's not going to work. So to be able to access that property with this sort of an approach will be important. And as I've drawn it on the other particular map there, you'll see that it comes in at the very bottom side of the parcel. That is because it is the only accessible piece to the lot. So if you go, maybe scroll down. All right, yeah. So right here, you'll see the blue lines. So those blue lines right there, those guys right there that would be the bottom part of the approach. You would come off that and then level off and then come into the house, allowing for a safe parking area and access for any kind of emergency vehicles. And then that'll also align. That's the only position I spend an extensive amount of time measuring, and this is what I could fit on there with these types of setbacks, allowing for it to position to where you can even access it. If you move this house in the other direction, you're not going to get into a garage. You're going to be buried into a slope or into the creek or onto a cliff. So this allows access not only for a garage, but also for emergency vehicles and the site to even be accessed. Once you go past that point on a lot, it rises quickly. And like I said, at the top, it's probably 20 feet. We'll point out that this section right here at the very tip, this section right here is unusable. It is so steep and so much of a grade that if we were to take anything out of there, the road would be, compromised coming down. And so that part of the lot is pretty much unusable. And then obviously snow management, being able to, plow snow. I was just there today and there is a hip of snow, being that it's on West Mountain, that is very large, that's getting shoved over the side there in order to keep the road accessible up to Maverick. So the snow management and being able to get off of that road will be important. One of the questions I will address as far as staff report goes, I saw the little sketch we put in for proposing putting it down there. If we put that in that area, that would block complete access to the site. And you can't park in the road. That is the only way into this. And I tried to get some good pictures of it, and it didn't work out real well to show. I mean, obviously pictures never really do quite justice, but if we were to put something down in there, that was obviously not to scale. I don't know how that would work, but I actually took on the Valley County Assessor's page and drew in 50 feet down because there's a creek, there's a 20-foot setback, which doesn't matter because there's a creek 20 feet in plus a 30-foot setback for a creek. It puts a dot right in the middle of my property. So if you look at this line right here, that's all that's buildable. It's a very small, slim triangle that's even that you could ever even build on with a 20-foot setback in the front, 50 from the rear because of where the creek's positioned, plus the 7 and an unusable part of the property. I can pass this around to you, and then I've also took in, if you would like it, I also took measurements on the Valley County Assessor's site and measured down 50 feet from the north property line, showing where that lands, which is almost smack dab center of this entire property, bearing it pretty much unusable. I don't know if you want this or
Yeah,
not.
Eric, could you go ahead and pass those to us? I think that'd be great.
So this would be the measured off based on it. That would show the legal buildable area. And this one shows the distance across right there, and that's 50 feet from the northern property line, which would be the creek's 20 feet in. You got 30 feet from the creek, which would land that dot at 50 feet from the property line. So, and I also just wanted to point out while you're looking at that, the house footprint that I used, I actually measured all that with the Valley County Assessor tools with the measuring device, and actually have that to scale. I know you mentioned also that you were talking about a scale drawing. Those were measured at the exact footprint based on the geo tools. That is the footprint, and it's all measured in based on that. It's not just a wild drawing. It actually is measured off exactly to 20 feet, on the gross on the front, and then, the actual formation of the house I was drawn on there is actually the measurements of what I would propose to build. It's not just a wild drawing.
Okay.
If I'm talking too fast or whatever, just govern me.
No, you're doing fine.
I'm trying to do all right here, so.
In fact, we might have you give a lesson on how to present in
Yeah,
front of the commission.
agreed.
You're doing great.
Great.
I don't know about that, but all right, I'm almost done here. So I also want, while you're looking at that, so several of the houses on this block are much less than 20 feet from the property lines and much less than 30 feet from creeks due to the similar adversities, small lots and steep terrain and mountainside features presented throughout the subdivision. I would a couple things I'd point out is if you look at the house closer to the business down the hill, the house that's owned by the man that owns that business, that one right there, that house, if you look where that line's at, it looks like it's not even in its own property, but the geo's off a little bit. It's about 7 feet from the property line. So I'm just pointing out that other houses have similar issues in there, and that one's 7 feet from the front property line. I'm just asking for 15, and the truth is I don't even know how much of the 15 or the 5 feet into that I'll really use. It would just be more just in case the eave projects in there. I'd rather try to position it to where it doesn't once we refine it, but ultimately I'd rather just ask once and not have to come back and say, hey, it doesn't quite fit. So I'm just asking for the 5 feet on the front just in case the eave protrudes into the 20-foot setback. As far as creeks go, on the north side, the west side, uphill, the most top, right there. So 2045 Maverick Road, there's a house right there. That house must have had a variance approved, or I don't know. It's obviously an old subdivision. I don't know when these variances were set in place. But that house is 6.5 feet from the exact same creek. From the eave, it's 8 feet to the foundation on that house. So that house on the back right corner that you see in that last picture, I measured it this morning, and that corner of that particular house is 6.5 feet from the eave and 8 feet from the foundation. So I'm not asking for something that hasn't been already done. It's not, and just pointing that out. And then the additional ones that have recently passed through, the Delaney and Delaware. They're on another creek in the subdivision, but same adversities, and they were both recently passed here for, kind of setting a precedence for the neighborhood. And again, I don't think if this development was created today, it would be approved because it wouldn't even fit these modern setbacks. So being I think it was, she said 1950 something when they put it together. I don't think that the same rules applied. So obviously just trying to make do within the parameters that I'm working with, and I just want to be able to get a house there for my family. Again, I was just going to point out one more thing, one more quick thing. Obviously we heard three favorable neighbors. And then obviously we have another one here. So that would be total of 4 of my neighbors. If, they're all excited about me being able to do this. So it's overwhelmingly positive for the neighborhood. There was one that had listed some of the exact same objections that was proposed during the Delaney setback or variance that was also approved. And I watched that unfold, and it was a very clean execution. And there was no problems with the creek or any problems there. And that one was also approved with the same objections. And I want to say one more thing about that. One of the people that actually wrote in positively favorable for my variance, his family is purchasing that very property of the guy that sent the letter against. That's in the process of closing right now to the family of somebody who wrote in to me, which I don't know if that really bears anything here, but that's under closing right now. It's been for sale, and it's actually being closed right now this month, I believe, to the family that wrote in favorably for me. So it's kind of an interesting scenario that they wrote in what they did when they're on their way out and living in another state. But just thought I'd throw that out there just because I don't know that long term that there's going to be any opposition. And one more thing I wrote down at the bottom here, final thing, I promise. Sorry, I'm long, I guess. I didn't think it would be this long. I jotted down a note how high above will ducting in the footing be. The plan will be in where that corner is. It's just one corner that will be close to the creek right there, similar to the house above, where it's just one corner to fit it in at the angle. It will be a minimum of 4 feet above the bottom of the footing, similar to this house that's on top of the hill. It's about the same. It keeps it from having the concern of being washed out or anything like that. So it'll have a nice slope that comes out without interrupting the creek and be above in case there ever was some sort of flooding. It's the bottom of the footing should be up pretty high from there, and then obviously the creek goes up from there. But it'll be a safe distance and safe height above any kind of concern for flooding. And French drains will be massively installed for any kind of other capturing of any water off of the roof or anything like that, so that it's all managed properly, so that it's not silting in or causing problems with the creek. With that, I'm just asking for you guys all to approve the variance. That's my request today. That's what I've got.
Great, thank you, Eric. I want to clarify something really quick before I forget the question. You did say the 4 feet elevation difference from the bottom of the footing, you said would be higher or lower than the creek?
It will be above the creek.
Above the creek. Thank you.
So 4 foot above. The creek drops. The properties it follows the original train of the.
That's what I.
So it'll protrude out into the corner there, and then it'll slope down to the creek. So the footings will be above the creek. So any ductwork will be higher than that.
Okay. Are there questions for the applicant?
What is the proposed square foot for the home?
It's going to be around 1,900 square feet, I believe. That's what the calculations are right now. I haven't finalized anything because I didn't want to get buried into money with that until I knew I could do it.
Okay.
But I'm looking at just a 4-bedroom. I have 2 kids under 2. We want to raise our kids here. It'll be our home. It won't be a temporary residence. So it'll just be a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, standard house with a garage.
There's another comment on here that you own lot 2 as well. Is that not a better lot to situate your home on?
So I'm glad you asked that because that was the sentence I skipped. I own 5 lots in the subdivision. So in addition to the 4 favorable responses, there's 4 more from me on the 4 other lots. So here I am 4 different times also here and speaking in favor of this approval. But I do own 5 lots in the subdivision. My intent is to build on each of them. So rather than build on that one, this one will be the home for me. The other ones should not require any variances, but this is the one that's the problem child, and it will be my house. I do own that lot right there, lot 2, I believe it is. And then on the opposite side of the subdivision, I own 3 more lots. Yeah, that's, I guess that was part of my spiel. My spiel was I technically have 4 more votes as far as neighbors go. And I'm all in favor, please. So, just up for the record. But yeah, I own the lots that bordering the Forest Service and state land right there. So not that one, but the next two, and then the one on the corner. So that, I guess the answer to the question is there will be a structure on that, and if I sell it, you know, in order to be able to afford to live in the modern Valley County prices, to build, you know, if I build there, I plan on building on all four of them. So I mean, to use one tit for tat, it doesn't really work with, you know, the purpose of owning each lot separately, with, you know, being able to build on each of them.
And if the home was positioned with the 30-foot variance at the back for the creek,
Mhm.
but we allowed a variance at the front for to move, basically moving the home forward.
Mhm.
Does that allow you some more flexibility in your home design?
Unfortunately, that embankment would cause it would be sheer down off the road, and it would cause it to go into a situation where we're talking road compromising, and it technically just doesn't quite get it to where we can actually safely put it in the right direction. It would put it to where the garage doors would have to face into it. I spent an entire day, and the photos you saw right there, I've had tape measures every which way trying to find a way that it is usable, suitable, accessible, and reasonable within scale and size to fit something in there that's functional, because of the adverse conditions that access is going to be restricted by. So that was my first assumption, because I thought, you know, well, let me just see what there is. But a little bit on both sides is the only way I can really get it in there with. It's really steep on all the way around that. It's a cove. It would eliminate functionality, unfortunately, because, you know, I thought of that myself. It was about 8 hours of a tape measure, and then you'll see on those pictures that I had earlier, I had stakes, and I literally positioned it to the minimum requirements. That I almost didn't even know if I could even do it, but that was the only way I could fit it in there and actually have a garage in the house and have what I needed, you know, suit the family's needs. And that's why that pipe that's sticking up right there. I want to be able to show you actual measurements from the property. So I actually have that measured exactly to fit there that way right there. So and if you see the embankment on the back, and that picture does no justice when you stand there and look up at it, it's something to behold. It would cause it to go into the road, and now you've got, you know, other problems that would honestly affect the community, and that's kind of why I think some of the folks that have written in favor of it basically say that it probably makes the most sense for that road safety and that embankment ultimately.
Other questions for the applicant? I have a couple. Who plows the snow? Is that a county road?
It is a county road.
Okay, so they
Love
have
for the county to plow it.
What's
I
that?
would love for the county to plow it
Okay, got it.
or maintain it, but they don't. It's paid privately.
And you are on Central Sewer with North Lake, is that correct?
Yes, I guess one of the photos shows the stick where the sewer's at in the drive approach. Not that one.
Okay, just as long as you're on it. And are you on Central Water, or is it individual
It'll
well?
be a well. So that's part of the other reason is that'll also act as a well pad to be able to put a well in that vicinity in the front. 'Cause that's the only way that, you know, you got to have a flat spot for drilling the well. But yeah, that well would have to go in that flatter area right there out front.
So, and it looked like from the drawing of on the lot of where the house would be, it appears that you might be building a garage.
Mhm.
So are you going to back down onto the county road, or do you have the ability to do a 3-point turn and turn down?
You go to that, and I'll show you. That's honestly a great question. That's exactly why I have to fit it this way in order for it to work, because that is exactly my thoughts. You're thinking the same as me. So if we put the garage on this side over here, to be able to back out and turn over to here, and then pull back out, that's part of this plan, is to be able to back out, back in front, and then pull out. See what I'm saying? That's the purpose of this positioning, is so that I can do that, because I do not. I mean, in the wintertime, you would never back. You'd be wrecked every time with the snow that's on there right now. You couldn't do it. So you have to be able to safely. That's part of the emergency services and my own ability to use the property, is to be able to do exactly what you're asking.
So a couple other things that were raised in the staff report, a couple of questions deal with the during construction timeframe. And I think I have two questions along that line. Along the stream bank, in the rare case where there is a lot more water that comes down that creek at some point in time, how have you checked with the building department about the depth of your foundation on that side, the where it's close to the creek, so that if the creek does encroach on your land and wash something out, will your house be protected?
It'll be protected. There will be boulders, and the plan is going to be to have the boulders right there, so that if water does come, it can't erode and wash. So there's going to be an erosion protection plan for just that. We're going to make sure that is not even a possibility, so it can't erode. So that whole section right back there, we'll just set boulders back in there, staying away far away from the creek as possible. But we'll just set boulders in there, so if it does ever rise, with it'll have geofabric behind the boulders, with the boulders set right back there. Closer, because technically the house foundation hopefully be around the 15 to 13 feet because of the eave. So we'll put the boulders right through there so that if water were to ever come rising in there, that it would just wash on the boulders. It couldn't erode the house. So there's a plan for that.
Okay, and then do you have a number 6 on the staff's questions, deals with best management practices such as silt fencing or straw wattles?
Mhm.
Do you have any reason why they cannot be used along the creek to protect the creek?
We will be doing that during construction, and ultimately, yeah, all of those things will be implemented in order to prevent any kind of adversities with erosion.
And then, no disturbance along the stream, I think is
Correct.
really. So what you're dealing with, Eric, is in 1959, this group didn't sit here because there were no ordinances in Valley County on these early subdivisions.
Gotcha.
The Planning and Zoning Commission started its work in the mid-1970s.
Mhm.
So a lot of these subdivisions predate that. And if that subdivision were being platted today, it's very likely that those lot sizes would be substantially different and the arrangement would be different. And so you're dealing with some pre-existing conditions on a lot. One of the main questions I think that Heidi or Commissioner Snyder asked was, how many square feet? And well, why aren't you building a smaller home to fit within the setbacks? That's, I think, the big question for us to deliberate on. So if you had a different size of a house in there that did fit within that and you didn't need the variance, what does that look like? Is
For
that
starters, based on if you look at that triangle, it goes from 0 out to at the very, very end, it's around 70 something feet of maximum use. So technically, the amount of the triangular shaped house that would have to be built there, it wouldn't even be suitable for. I mean, you could put a shed in between there. You're not even going to fit a normal size house in there. I got a family of 4, so that you couldn't effectively put even a small standard house in there, let alone one with a garage. So it really inhibits me from being able to use the property with even in this. And we're talking 2-story to get 2 4 bedrooms with the garage. So it's not a large house, and I'm on the high side, thinking 1,900 square feet. So, I mean, I don't feel like it's going to be anything outside of the norm of any subdivision you see out there for average subs versus high end subs with high square footage. So, but I do have to have a garage. I'm a snowmobiler, as I was admitted. I got to have a place to do things in the wintertime in Valley County. I couldn't live without a garage, so that's a necessary function for me as well. And then I've watched this unfold on multiple other houses that just recently got built that had a variance that were within 13 feet of the creek, not counting the one that's up there that's already 6.5 feet from the creek, based on the easement. For the setbacks, and it's never caused any problems for the creeks on those projects.
other questions? Cindy, do you have any other questions? Are your questions been answered?
Yeah.
I have one more
Mr.
question.
Mayor.
I was just trying to understand, this is a 68 or 66 by 40, that's about 2,700 square feet. You're talking about referencing,
Garage.
Gosh.
it's mostly the garage space is the difference?
Yeah, the garage space takes that off. Yeah, deal with the garage on the far left side there. And the reason the house shape's staggered is to try to get it away from the creek. That's the whole purpose of that, is trying to. Otherwise, I've just been simple and trying to make it square, affordable. I staggered it like that, just specifically trying to get it to where you could stagger it, get it away from the creek, but yet still be able to back out. To your point, be able to back out, turn around, and depart from the parcel. And so that way, that's there's everything I've proposed here has been really thought out, trying to figure out how I can make this function with minimal impact.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. If there's anyone that's going to testify in opposition, you'll have a chance to rebut those comments.
Okay.
And if there's no other questions, to the applicant-
I have one more,
Commissioner
sorry.
Knapp. Sorry.
How far is the high water line from what you would say is the center of you said the creek's about 24 inches?
Mhm.
How far is the high water line from the center of that 24-inch creek?
I understand your question. So the creek is literally like it's like that deep. It's a creek like this. If I were to display the water volume going through there, you got about this much water about year round. It's odd that it never ever changes. It's just like a spring. The up above the mountain, the drainage actually comes down the other side of the subdivision. So this creek has got about a volume of water about like that much year round. And so we're not talking something massive. It's literally 24-inch little half circle.
So there's not much difference between where the creek is currently flowing and the high water line for that.
It pretty much doesn't change. It's very, 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 very distinct. And like I said, a 2-foot little tiny stream. Creek is big. That sounds bigger than what it really is, but it's small. I will. I'm kind of reluctant whether or not I should even say this, but I've being part of the other ones that I actually know Devin and watched some of the other ones that got variances and even on those guys' creeks and everything. Like their construction was about the same. Most of the creeks through this subdivision are very just kind of consistent. They're spring fed from up above, and you don't really see influxes other than on the very far end of the subdivision towards the state and federal land. That gets seasonal streams that is from the snow melt from up above the mountain. So out there on the edge of the south side of the subdivision there, that's where most of all the water that comes from up above. For some reason channels over there, and there's a big lagoon, and it enters the lake over there. So the seasonal waters aren't inside the proper part of the subdivision.
Thank you. All right, Ken.
Oh, no, fine. Other questions? That's what this process is for. Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your patience. Thanks.
Is there anyone that would like to testify in favor of the variance? State your name and address for the record. Appreciate it.
My name is Tim Orr, and my address is 2445 Maverick.
Can you repeat your last name?
Orr, O-R-R.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
If you were to look at my lot, I've got a stream going right down the middle of it, and the back corner of my house is about 4.5 feet from the bottom of the footing, and then going up from there. Can you show that by chance, Miss Cinda? Yeah, so right there, I'm about 6.5 to 7 feet from the eave of the house, and then about 8 feet from the foundation. So we're very, very close to the same, and the house has been there for almost 30 years. And we've had no problems, no erosion. We're not showing any erosion right now. Everything is running clean and clear. The water per second going down through there is minuscule. So, and I know that that's what Eric's is going to be, and his house is above about the same height as what mine is currently. Okay. Any other questions?
No, I think it's good to have people who have a historical perspective.
And I'm a contractor,
Things.
and so I wouldn't have bought the house if I didn't feel like it was stable. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm on this side. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm on this side of that creek, and that creek is, once again, this big. You get a little bit of erosion because dirt moves, but it's never moved enough to cause any problems.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the variance? Is there anyone who is undecided that would like to speak? Is there anyone that is opposed that would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And since there was no opposition, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the commission for deliberations. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Don't all speak at once.
So Cinda, the two other variances in here, those are on a separate creek. That's my understanding.
This one is the main kind of runoff over here. I really wasn't even aware of this one over here. This one goes down to the pond. It sits down here.
Okay.
This one, I don't know where it. Let's go through a culvert over here somewhere.
Yeah.
But yes, there are at least 2 other variances in this area. And those were approved as, and I don't know if you were on there, because of the small lot sizes, you know, the topography, it's steep. You have to be careful where you're locating your houses and things.
I know that's one of the reasons that drove the North Lake Sewer and Water District there was because the lot sizes were so small, they didn't have room for drain fields.
They couldn't get septics.
One thing that I would suggest that we put on as a condition of approval is the implementation of best management practices, including the silt fence and straw bottles, as a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners,
And that the creek can't be altered
and no altering of the creek.
and that the roof lines be designed to not drain into the creek bed. Ten feet just feels awfully close. I don't know if we have room where we can, be still designing the home where we can do 20 feet or it's 10 feet or 20 feet, doesn't matter if we're piercing the variance anyway, so.
No. I had for conditions, must maintain vegetation between the foundation and the stream, where he doesn't have his erosion control so that it slows the water, it'll stop the water, it'll drain into the soils. And then must place permanent BMPs along the creek to divert water during and after construction.
Okay.
I mean, there are BMPs you can use after
Right.
construction, you know, just lips that turn it away, that type of stuff.
Yep.
And then must have an erosion construction plan.
Not submitted with building permit? How, what? More out of curiosity.
Well, for his own protection, he'll have his erosion construction plan. There's nobody that's going to review and approve it at the county level.
Got it.
We will look at the BMPs,
Okay.
and that's in Title 9-4.
And I think that if he needs help with those BMPs, I think Soil and Water Conservation District, that's their expertise, so it'd be a reference for him.
Okay. And then must drain roof lines away from the creek. Is that what you were after?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you repeat that last one?
Must drain roof lines away from creek. So they're not pouring directly into the creek.
Run the drains out. to the
Yeah,
borough
so that
pit.
they're short enough that they drain before it gets into the BMPs.
Other comments, questions, concerns?
One comment, the
Yes.
setbacks are measured from the eave to the property line or the high water line.
Is that,
Not from the road.
that's in ordinance, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, just for information.
So could you repeat the conditions of approval? Sorry, just so we're clear we got them.
Well, it's a little muddled. Let's see, must maintain vegetation between foundation and stream. Must place permanent BMPs along the creek to divert water during and after construction. Must have an erosion construction plan, and then must drain roof lines away from the creek. There's 4 of them.
Does that capture all the concerns? Whoever makes the motion, if there is a motion, it would be a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners as a variance.
So I can give it a shot. It may be
Commissioner
muddled
May.
before we're done.
Commissioner Mabe, I have great confidence in you, so.
I would recommend that we approve variance 24-007, Hodge setback variance, with amendments that best practices such as silt fencing and wattles. The creek will not be altered. The roof line must drain away from the creek. Vegetation must be maintained between the foundation and the creek area, and there must be an erosion construction plan.
I think is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? We do have some discussion. I think the 5th one was not altering the stream.
Creek will not be altered. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a special circumstance here. I think that, like you had mentioned, Ken, this isn't a subdivision that we would approve. And so at this current day and age, and so I think that in making a recommendation for this variance, it doesn't appear that it's going to affect the neighbors. It doesn't appear to create any issues. So I'm for it. Thank you for taking the time to demonstrate. That was helpful. That's my comment.
That's it. Any other comments? Okay, the motion is to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners approval of variance 24-007, the Hodge setback variances with the conditions of approval listed in the motion. Is there no further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And seeing none, the motion has passed. There is there appeal period on this?
No, it's just
No, this is
recommendation.
recommendation. So just for procedure, this goes to the Board of County Commissioners in their next meeting or two. They'll have to actually take action on to approve the variance. So,
Yeah, since this was a unanimous recommendation, then it doesn't have to be heard as a public hearing. I can just get it scheduled on an administrative agenda.
Eric, you did a great job. Yeah, thanks.
Very nice.
Okay. Next item, does anybody need a break? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 3 on our agenda this evening is vacation 24-004, the Rowell, I think I'm saying that right, vacation of a utility easement. Is there any ex parte contact or conflicts of interest?
None.
No. Okay, hearing none. Cinda? It's a staff report.
Okay, the staff report for vacation 24-004, Rowell Vacation of Utility Easements. The applicants are James and Rebecca Rowell. The property is addressed at 13148 Cameron Drive in Mountain Meadows Subdivision Number 2, and they own lots 8, 9, and 10 in Block B. Mountain Meadows Subdivision was recorded on July 23rd, 1973. For the plat, there's a 12-foot utility easement centered on all interior lot lines. The applicant's requesting vacation of the utility easements along those lot lines. And they have combined all 3 lots into one for taxing purposes. The applicant's requesting this vacation in order to build over the property line. They cannot build over an easement. The application was submitted on December 18th. Legal notice was provided to the Star News, neighbors, utilities, posted on the website. Agency comments received. Mike Reno, Central District Health, stated Central District Health has no objections to the proposal. Jess Ellis, Donley Fire Marshal, has no comments or concerns. Emily Hart, McCall Airport Manager, has no comments. DEQ provided general comments on air quality, wastewater, drinking water, surface water, solid waste, hazardous waste, water quality, groundwater contamination, and best management practices. I listed portions of the Valley County Code here that have the standards for vacations. My comments and questions. Sites within the Donley Fire District, the North Lake Recreational Sewer and Water District, Water District 65, and a HERD District. The site has designated floodplain and possible wetlands within the property boundary. A condition of approval would be that Idaho Power release the easements. The P&Z Commission needs to determine if the future development of the neighborhood would be inhibited by the vacation. Planning and Zoning Commission decision would be a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, who will then hold another public hearing. And the Board of County Commissioners, if they choose to approve it, would sign the declaration of vacation. You can see on the screen the property that I'm referring to here. I can get it all on without. Oh, nope, I'm not. Anyway, this is the big property here. And then this is what the plat looks like. It's combining these three parcels. The utility easements are running through the center here and here. Pictures of the site.
So it borders up against Mud Creek.
It
Looks
does.
like, yeah.
I'll show you where the floodplain is. So it's just very small portions of this parcel that have any floodplain. The floodplain winds through over here. And that ends my staff report. Oh, we did receive a response from Megan Kelly with Idaho Power, and it states, we have no utilities within the described public utility easement to be relinquished and do not object to the relinquishment.
Is that relinquishment of the utility easements something that they have to have recorded? That Idaho Power would sign off on, separate from this?
No, they have no facilities. What the county, we write a declaration of vacation, and then we record it and send it to them.
Or to Idaho Power as
And
well?
then the declaration. It's a recorded document, which then also goes to the assessor's office and removes it from the plat.
And then you stated that the applicant owns all three lots. Are they all one parcel now?
Taxing parcel.
So,
You
okay.
never actually get rid of those lot lines unless you amend the plat.
And then probably a question is, if a future owner of this parcel decided to split those again, could they?
Yes.
And then, the question for us is, do we ever envision that there'd be a need for utility easements down those lot lines if it's resplit?
No, we don't. That's the P&Z decision is. I mean, there's
Power's
lots
gonna
over
go all the way
here.
around the Republic.
Right.
Idaho Power doesn't foresee a need for it because there's nothing that's going to be developed behind. If they build over the lot line,
That's a
Right.
good question.
then they are permanently encumbering both parcels.
Okay, so, okay.
Okay. So their action would encumber it.
Yes. Our rules say that you can split back to the original lot lines, but if they've built over it, then they would have to just maybe split off the other parcel.
So that would be a subdivision of a parcel then.
Well, they could, no, just with a deed, they could split off a parcel that's not encumbered.
That is different from the original parcel.
Well, let me
That's where it gets a little complicated.
see here.
3 pieces.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So if they chose to
And I'm, my question is not so much centered about the current owner or the applicant of this. It's a future owner that, it's just to make sure that they know.
So lot 8, 9, and 10 will always remain lots 8, 9, and 10. They've combined this into one taxing parcel.
Right.
If they built over this lot line here and someday wanted to split off lot 8, they could do so by just recording a deed. It doesn't, just because they permanently encumbered these two, doesn't mean they have this.
And those lines have to remain those lines cannot shift.
Those
Is that
lines
correct?
cannot shift. However, we allow lot line adjustments so long as you don't go below the minimum lot size.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of little, but if they build over that line, they're permanently encumbering.
And so right now the home is on lot 8. It looked like in the
148 Cameron.
That's correct, it's on lot 8,
That's right here.
and we're going to build the cost 8 and 9.
So you might ask him if he's going to split off 8 from lot 9 and 10. Because you can't have two houses on the same piece of property.
Any other questions for
Unless
staff?
it's an ADU.
Okay, at this point in time, we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant. If you'd come up and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Jim Rowell. My address is 8183 Goldstream Court in Middleton, Idaho for my permanent residence. And this is our second home where we spend a great deal of our time. We intend to add on to the existing house, mostly garages and storage, because we're going to convert the existing garage into a downstairs bedroom. Because we're figuring in the next 10 years, those stairs are going to be a bit difficult, so we're going to plan ahead for it. So I can't see it ever being split off again because we're trying to have a place where we can have our children and grandchildren come up to Valley County for the next several decades. Because it's a great place to come to, it truly is. It is in a floodplain, but the floodplain has a 40-foot embankment between the creeks and the flood area up to where the houses and stuff we built. Same thing with the wetlands. Excuse me. The air is really dry in here. But on the western end of the lot, it's wetlands down below and then an embankment of 20 feet there. And on the eastern end of it, it's about a 40-foot embankment down to the creek. Those the wetlands and floodplains, they're dealt with. And I don't believe we'll ever want to split it off. Anyway, that's the way I feel today. We do have, Idaho Power did say they have no problem because they're never planning on putting anything down in the creek area or the wetlands.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. So your intent is to build additional garages, but not an additional home. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's just an expansion of the existing house,
Okay.
so we can convert our existing garage into a downstairs bedroom.
Okay. Because I just want to make sure, I think what staff had said is a good point, is that you can't have two homes on one parcel. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Right, I understand.
Okay.
Other questions for the applicant? I have one, Jim. Deals with the Mud Creek and what's happening with that and the erosion. Are you losing bank on Mud Creek? Is it eroding and causing the bank to slough in and losing ground towards your house?
When we first moved there, we were. They had placed a lot of boulders along the creek down below, but they weren't high enough. So we brought in another 3 to 4 feet of boulders. The entire creek is lined with boulders down there now to stop that. And on top of that, my wife is out there planting flowers and bushes and trees and all that stuff on the bank to keep so the plant life will hold it. So we haven't had any washout in the last couple of years.
And is that consistent on all of your lots that border that creek?
The only place that it's a problem is right where the creek turns, right at the edge of where the current lot 8 ends. There's a turn in the creek, and it would in the spring, when it floods, it would come up and wash out the dirt and such. The rest of it is just seasonal wetlands coming down from the west. But the existing embankment that was washing out, it's supported now. We don't see it ever, well, we hope if something else starts happening, we'll ask for someone help on reinforcing it or something. But we've got 30, 40 feet to the bank. So we've got a lot of bank, excuse me,
Great.
a lot of bank to wash out.
Just for reference, if you would like some BMPs, as you heard us talk about in the previous application, best management practices, the Valley Soil and Water Conservation District that's one of the things they do is stream bank stabilization projects. And their office is about 1 block to the west here.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that.
And Cinda can give you contact information to pass that along. That'd be great.
It starts to wash out, we'll have them come in.
But you want to get it before it starts to wash
Yes,
out.
well, yeah, that's true.
That ground there is very sandy.
I have a question. Does anybody know why it's named Mud Creek and not Sand Creek? It's just all sand down there. You know?
Is all that erosion. creates
Oh, is
mud.
that-
I don't
Oh,
know.
when it erodes, it's muddy. In the spring, I'll bet it is, yeah.
Well, before Cascade Reservoir was built, it made a big mud delta out there.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's why you see the boat lines with the motorboats on by the S Bridge.
Uh-huh.
All that mud came from that creek.
Wow. Well, this has been an educational night for me, I'll tell you.
All right. Anything else you want to share with us? Any other questions to the applicant?
I'd like to get started the building in the spring if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and see if there's anyone that would like to speak in favor of the variance or not variance. It's a vacation of the utility easement. Is there anyone that's undecided? And is there anyone that is opposed? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you for your presentation. We'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation on the vacation of the utility easement.
Thank you for your time.
We're not done yet, but
Well, no, I can leave though, right? Okay.
I think that the two issues that I wrote down were questioning about the one parcel, the Idaho Power, that sounds like it's been taken care of, and the question about the Mud Creek channel.
Seems pretty straightforward to me on this one.
Cinda, you said all of those lots have that same utility easement on all lot lines?
Yeah, a lot of those 1970 subdivisions, everything had a utility easement centered on the lot lines.
Interesting.
That's why we have to go through all these vacations sometimes.
Okay, we should put that on our list about an administrative process, or I guess we can't, can we? Because they have to go to the board.
Hearing process,
Yeah.
it has to go to the board, and
All right. Okay,
Good idea though, Ken.
I don't need the power.
other thoughts or motions? Again, this is a recommendation of the board.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of vacation of utility easements 24-004.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion has passed, and the carry the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Okay. Item number 4 on our agenda this evening, conditional use permit 24-34, the Wilderness Retreat has been postponed until May 8th at the request of the applicant. And so that takes us to our final item of regular business. And is there anybody need to take a break? You're all okay for a few more minutes? Okay. Is there any conflicts or ex parte contact that need to be disclosed on subdivision 25-001, the Tamarack Resort PUD, second amendment, phase 1, preliminary and final plat?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, hearing none. Sendo.
So, staff report for sub 25-001, Tamarack Resort PUD, second amended phase 1 preliminary and final plat. The applicants are Gloria Barlow Bowman and Philip Andrew Bowman. The property is addressed at 548 and 590 Discovery Drive. It's lots 74 and 75, block 14 of the Tamarack Resort PUD phase 1. The applicants are requesting a conditional use permit for a 2-lot subdivision to modify the existing open space easements and building envelopes. Changes being made in order to provide distance between the homes and Discovery Drive, provide open space between homes and Discovery Drive, and then provide a view corridor to the golf course from Discovery Drive. Formerly, the open space easements were shown east of the utility easement line, and building envelopes were shown west of the utility easement line along the road. The application includes the following changes. Lot 74, Block 14 will become Lot 1 and is addressed at 548 Discovery Drive. Open space will be adjusted to allow for a building permit on both sides of the utility easement and expand the open space to the road. Wetlands have now been delineated and a building envelope created. Lot 57, Block 14 will become Lot 2 and is addressed at 590 Discovery Drive. Open space will be adjusted to allow for a building permit on both sides of the utility easement and expand the open space to the road. Wetlands have now been delineated and a building envelope created. Sewer service would be provided by North Lake Recreational Sewer and Water District. Potable water would be provided by Tamarack Municipal Association. Access will continue to be provided by Discovery Drive, a private road. Approval of the CUP is approval of the preliminary plat per Valley County Code 9-5H-2F. Recordation of the plat will automatically vacate Tamarack Resort PUD Phase 1 final plat, and that's Idaho Code 50-1306A, vacation of plats 9. The application was submitted on December 31st. Legal notice was sent to the Star News, neighbors, agencies, posted on the Valley County website. Mike Reno, Central District Health, stated a subdivision application and engineering are required. Lori Frederick, Valley County Cadastral Specialist, has reviewed the final plat and found no discrepancies. Gus Ellis, Donnelly Fire Marshal, has no comments or concerns. Emily Hart, McCall Airport Manager, has no comments. DEQ provided general comments on air quality, wastewater, drinking water, surface water, solid waste, hazardous waste, water quality, groundwater contamination, and best management practices. Public comments received. The application contains a letter stating that the Tamarack Municipal Association and the Tamarack Declarant approved the relocation of the building envelopes into the existing open space easement. The proposed modifications create a net benefit by creating a large visual open space corridor to the golf course and Lake Cascade from Discovery Drive that would not exist with the locations of the existing building envelopes. The property is a slope with a creek, designated wetlands, and scattered aspen trees. It's residential lots near the golf course, and then the future heritage area. It's categorized as 2 residential uses, H planned unit development. Summary, there's no change in use or change to compatibility from the original platted lots. The sites within the Donnelly Fire District, North Lake Recreational Sewer and Water District, Tamarack Municipal Water and Water District 65. Plat Note 1 refers to the open space easements, and Section 7.2F of Phase 1 Supplemental Declaration. Plat Note 11 states there shall be no further subdivision of any lot. The property is subject to the Tamarack Resort Wildland Urban Interface Fire Protection Plan. A new one is not required. What is Plat Note 13 referring to? It states reference is made to the public health letter on file regarding additional restrictions. And we weren't clear what that note was for. Conditions of approval are just our standard conditions of approval. It has to be recorded within 2 years. 5, approval of the Army Corps of Engineers for the reduction in wetland impacts is required prior to submitting the final plat to the Board of County Commissioners for approval and signature. Sanitary restrictions must be satisfied prior to recordation unless special consideration is given by Central District Health. Shall place address numbering at each residence and at the driveway entrance if the house numbers are not visible from the road. All easements shall be shown on the final plat. A declaration of installation of utilities shall be noted on the face of the plat referencing electrical power, phone, and fiber. The following notes shall be placed in the notes on the face of the final plat. And the reason we highlighted some of these is because it's changed since the original platting of Tamarack. So if you, this is the way the lots look now on the screen. The lot boundaries are not changing. What's changing is the location of the building sites. Before, building envelopes were up here, open space easements were here. What they've done is they've created building envelopes along the edges and created this V corridor from Discovery Drive.
Good.
That ends my staff report.
Great. Any other questions for Cinda?
And I do have one thing. One more, I'm sorry. If you choose to approve this, can you approve the preliminary and final at the same time so we don't have to bring it back?
So I have a question. I'm a little confused, I guess, by the process here. Why wouldn't you try, why do a new preliminary and final plat over an original instead of a plat amendment?
I understand your question. We did look at a plat amendment, but it did not meet the definition of an amended plat entitled,
Okay.
it's basically the same process as this, only if you do an amended plat, you just submit the final plat at P&Z and it goes to the board. Well, we're doing the same thing here.
Got it. Okay.
And it's being amended by new owners, not Tamarack. I mean, just things.
Okay. And so plat note 11 states there shall be no further subdivision of any lot.
The lot lines have not changed. It's just the building envelopes.
It means that they can't go split one of these lots into two.
Okay.
Cinda, did you ever figure out what plat note 13 was all about?
No,
Is that on the original platting of
no,
PUD, or is that on this
it's on
application?
this application. It's
Okay.
right here. Right there.
I can't read that, but
I will show you.
are you trying to help me?
I can read it.
Oh.
Oh, good.
I just didn't understand references made to public health letter on file regarding additional restrictions. I was hoping they could tell us. If not, we'll have to ask the surveyor why they put it on there.
All right. Other questions for staff?
And just to, because I don't know why there would be further restrictions. Because it's on central sewer and central water.
Could be holdover from another plat.
No, I think we pulled that sanitary restriction release letter and couldn't figure it out. So. That does end my staff report.
Are you sure? Okay. We'll go ahead and hear from the applicant at this time. If you'd like to come up and state your name and address for the record. Welcome to the commission.
Thank you. My name's Gloria Bowman, and the address is 565 Discovery Drive. And it's been a lesson in civil education, this whole process. It started about 6 years ago. Learned all about the Army Corps, learned all about, everything. And I have to say, everybody's been wonderful. It just takes time to do everything. But everybody's been great. And Cinda, you're outstanding. We purchased these lots years ago to preserve our own view. Our home is across the street, and we love the view of the lake and the golf course and all that. And the lots building lots were very small. Even though we knew nobody really built on them because they were so small, we bought them as a protection for ourselves. And as time went on, I realized that we could amend and take 1/10 of the wetland. And so we went that route to just improve the home views. They get closer to the golf course and makes it more desirable. And to improve the streetscape. Because parts of the roads, like you go downtown McCall, all these houses are right along the street. Nobody can see the lake. And everybody has loved lots of weddings, all kinds of activity in that. And we thought, you know, a win-win situation, pushing the building lot to straddle the easement and to allow the people who build their homes there to be closer to the golf course and enjoy the views, and yet also have more privacy. So that was the goal in mind, and I think we've achieved it. Tamarack has been great. The design review committee has been helpful, and we've all had our fingers in this pot trying to make this sort of happen. And here we are. So,
Great.
are there any questions?
Any questions for the applicant? No, it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty
Thank you.
straightforward.
At this point in time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing to anyone who would like to speak in favor of the application. If you'd like to come up and state your name for the record.
Evening, Commissioner Scott Turlington, the Tamarack Resort, 311 Village Drive, Tamarack 83615. Normally I wouldn't come up and speak in favor, but we've been very involved in this. It's a new process for us as well. I think to my knowledge, this is the first time we've had homeowner amend a plat. So it obviously triggered a lot of discussion for the declarant, whom I'm here representing tonight, and making sure our open space remained where it needed to be under our PUD. So throughout this process, as Lori mentioned, they've been working with this for a lot of years. Not only did our design review committee have a chance to be involved and ensure that open spaces were protected as the building envelopes were repositioned, but the declarant did as well, as did the association. So from that perspective, we are very supportive of this effort and this process, and hopefully none of the other homeowners are paying attention, because if you get a bunch of homeowners start amending plats, it's I don't know where that goes, but this one's been great. So we're appreciative of the time to present this tonight, and happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Turlington? I'm sure if they go through the process, they'd have to go through the Tamarack groups, and it's too numerous. I'm sure you'll do something about it. So.
Well, and the way our declaration's written, there's nothing we can do about it. So once you own the land,
Right.
it's kind of yours to do with it. But there are some parameters. For example, the open space can't be reduced. That's a resort-wide PUD element. So those are the main things that we look at, and the DRC looked at as well.
Great. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone who is undecided? Like to speak? How about anybody that is opposed to the application? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back for deliberations. This is not a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. This is an action item from the P&Z and is appealable. Any comments? What's your pleasure?
I think it's pretty straightforward. I think my first question would have been for Tamarack if they approve this. So thank you for making that very clear. I think that was my only concern. Other than that, it looks like a great thought out plan.
Other comments? Comments, motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve SUB 25-001 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this subdivision 25-001 Tamarack Resort PUD, Second Amendment, Phase 1, preliminary and final plat. Is that your motion for?
It was, well done. You read my note. Perfectly done.
And authorize the chairman to sign.
And authorize the chairman to sign.
Thank you. Is the seconder in agreement with those changes?
I am.
Okay, great. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and call for the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion has passed. There is a 10-day appeal period at which anyone can appeal the decision of the P and Z Commission. And we'll go forward from there. Thank you for your attendance this evening.
Thanks.
Safe travels.
Yeah, drive safe going back.
Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening is under other business. We're going to have a fairly short discussion this evening on the comprehensive plan. And I think you've all received some emails, maps, documents, things to that nature over the last week or so. And I think it's our intent to just kind of go over those, have staff go over some of the highlighted sections that we've been working on for the last year. And then have some discussions about some other input from other entities. So Cinda, if you want to kick us off here.
So as you're aware, last fall, well, over the last several years, the Planning and Zoning Commission has gone through the comp plan and had lots of discussion. Last October, they wound up going through the comprehensive plan line by line and made the changes that they thought they wanted to see. Since then, I've had some input from other agencies and interested people, such as the Fire Working Group wanted to see some changes to the verbiage that had to do with fire. And we included that into your packet. It was dated January 30th. For instance, under one of the wildfires become even more increasingly concerned, they want to add loss of structures, outbuildings, houses, commercial real estate, loss of humans' life, risk to firefighter safety, and then loss of communication sites and infrastructure. They just really expanded on things that were already in here. Promote all approved CUP and PUD applicants continued land use practices to reduce fire while waiting on development timelines. Greater consideration and mitigation standards when proposed in areas of high risk for flood and wildfire, and that lands that have been historically identified for environmentally hazardous areas, appropriate remedies are mitigated for new development within subdivision ordinance. Promote usage of current wildland urban interface international code adoption. That one, I think what we're going to do is take some words out. I don't know that we would want to adopt the WUI in its entirety. So I don't know if anybody looked through this.
I had to go through it. I felt pretty good about what the wildfire inputs were. I didn't see anything that struck me as necessarily repetitive. I think it does feel a little bit like we are, and this is from an outsider perspective, but did we used to promote growth and people putting houses in trees and now we're not?
We just changed
Just-
that.
And that feels like a significant change that almost could be called out in a
They just adopted it Monday.
okay.
They took it out of the timbered areas.
Because that with that kind of in mind, as I read this, there was a note in there somewhere of it was a kind of a change of direction. This commentary felt pretty good to me. It felt aligned with that new direction.
The only thing I would want to change is just the adoption of the WUI and just, adopt excerpts from it.
Mhm.
Some of the stuff I think the board has an appetite to adopt, and some of it they don't.
And again, our input is a recommendation only to the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's in on page 6 of their 20 or whatever it is. They have added encourage road maintenance and development consider for future use planning in the event of a wildfire. Or are they trying to go for
What page are you
multiple
on?
axes?
It's actually page 34.
Page 34 in the
34.
comp plan.
Okay.
It's page 6 of 20 on the document.
Encourage road maintenance and development, consider for future use planning and
Are they trying to get at having multiple entrances and exits to subdivisions? Is that their intent?
some sort of connectivity. I mean, I'll clean these lines up. That's like a connectivity. I can check with Mara too.
Some of that, isn't that covered by some of the ingress egress rules already?
Consideration.
Encourage road maintenance and development
Consideration.
I didn't have time to get through all of
that
these,
was
but
just kind of.
I would reword that.
Yeah, I'll clean that up.
and they've got the same concept repeated on the page 37 about the pathways, ingress and egress.
Okay, yeah.
So Cinda, is the intent then to look over these documents, for instance, the wildfire mitigation, their input, and then I'm guessing that we are going to need to have a work session to incorporate parts of these recommendations into the comp plan.
Well, it's kind of after, if there's anything you really don't like about this, and I would like to start inserting some of this into the plan. And then, we've been doing this for so long, but I want, I've got your changes done except for, I think, one chapter. I need to write the portion of the land use that incorporates the maps that we're going to do, the vicinity maps. I need to write the language on the impact areas. And I would like to be able to include this fire department stuff into the plan. And some of the valley soil and some of the Friends of Lake Cascade into it. And then bring it back to the P&Z Commission again.
So we heard from at least one of these entities in the past, but it's been a while, and I think it's been long enough that I don't know that anybody else was anybody else here when Soil and Water came in. That's been almost 2 years ago. I'm wondering if the entities that provided comment, it just seems like for good transparency is maybe in a work session, have them come in, review why they put that, why they took the time and effort to make a recommendation to the comp plan, so that if there's background information we're not getting, it just seems like there's maybe an opportunity. I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours on this, but it does seem like that we ought to maybe hear from a couple of those folks. Just a thought.
Makes sense. Since 4 of the 5 here are new.
Yeah, because Eddie, you've been on.
Heidi was.
I was just on in September.
What about you, Terry? You're too.
It's been a year.
A year.
Year and a couple months.
Yeah, I think it might not hurt to have a time when, and I think that's something we wanted to actually talk about, was a potential date for a work session to, And as Cinda said, we've been working at this comp plan update for a long time. And I
Years.
think we'd like to try to get it finalized.
But it's imperative that we get this finalized so we can write our ordinances. And so if we put it out another 2 or 3 months, I mean, it just keeps going on and on. So, you guys pick a date.
I mean, or I like Cinda's recommendation where she integrates this into the comp plan and then we have a review session.
I think that, you know, she can certainly take the input from the other entities.
Yeah.
And try to embed it in here and then have a discussion with them to make sure that we've captured what they wanted.
Yeah.
I do have some, I don't really want to put ordinances into the comp plan though. So we will have to be careful how you
Split them out.
guys do that.
Right, they'll have to be over guiding principles that become ordinances, right?
Right.
So the letter that we have from Kara Utter on the input,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, is this just a letter that references the maps that she had done?
These are the maps that she's working on.
Okay, but there was a separate email there's an email string between you and her. Just on the attachment that I have. Maybe that's just communication, but she lists out impact areas, road maintenance, roads, special areas, sites, natural hazards, long-range growth, radon.
Right. And all that's currently in the comp plan.
Okay, so maybe that's not part of this.
These are the maps that have been created specifically for the comp plan. These are the new maps that she's working on. This is the long-range growth ones.
Right, and I would like to discuss a couple of those, especially on the APA areas.
The APA areas aren't on here.
Well, right, but the long use planning concept maps, the one you have in your left hand.
Yeah.
So maybe we could have a work session to go over this input and these maps, and maybe Cinda could make us some recommendations about what could go in the comp plan.
On this,
Let's pick a date.
Well, on the input from the other entities that.
I mean,
I
I
thought
just,
that's what this was, right here.
this was, I mean, I have problems. I would not be comfortable putting in some of this stuff. It's,
Kind of taking them one by one.
Yeah,
Maybe to break
urban
this
sprawl.
down. The wildfire one seemed like their additional input was
the wildfire
aligned and easy
seemed
and
fine.
just kind of an incorporation. The one from the Valley Soil Water Preservation District seemed a bit more verbose maybe, and also was almost wanting us to, and I think that's maybe where you're talking about putting, there's more here that probably belongs somewhere else, where they're wanting enforcement in the plan and some of those things, which I don't believe in the comprehensive plan. You want enforcement suggestions.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that was my takeaway reading it. So I'm in favor of a working session. I'm perfectly comfortable with her adding in anything from the other one. This one, there probably is some items to debate. And I understand why they wrote it from this perspective, which is water's what they live. Water's number one. That's their world. But we have to look at it a bit more across all of the other resources as well.
You said it very well.
I think,
When they want us to acknowledge that the proliferation of individual wells and septic systems impose a threat.
There's likely some overarching principles
Principles,
that could be put into the comprehensive plan that would at least create the shell. And then I think what I heard you say is then take some of the specifics and incorporate ones that make sense, that are in balance,
Mm-hmm.
into the ordinance.
Yeah, I think that can be, there's a place for, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything that's been said, but it's where it belongs and maybe how it's said.
Agreed.
I thought that the soil water conservation raised some good issues, but it is way
Not
too,
the right
way too
spot.
detailed for.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's what Dell said.
Okay. And I know that Lake Cascade folks had some as well. Some of those are consistent with soil and waters as well. So really, that's,
Well, he just had a couple. So,
on the, it provide some input on the map since I brought it up. On the first map, oops, long range growth type. You have residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and scenic byway. I know we've talked a lot about the commercial area along 55 between Lake Fork and McCall. Some of the ag areas that are in production ag today are listed as residential. Some of the best ag ground in the county is listed as residential. I would like to see some changes on that. And then there's some that's not even designated at all.
well, yeah, the whole county's not dead. These are just where patterns
You know, but
have emerged. Which one are you talking about, Ken?
well, for instance,
South of Donley.
well, south of Donley, between Old State Highway and 55 for sure, and then even some of it west of Old State Highway. And our entire farm is not even on the list as ag ground. So I think I don't know how specific we're going to get with these, but if I was somebody making application for something, look this and say, well, that's going to be residential. That's where I can build a house.
I mean,
That was just generalized.
this was just generalized. Yes, I see, because I thought we had your farm on here.
Oh, no.
Um,
Nothing east.
Yeah, we need-
East of 55
I
is
need
on
that
there.
here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of residential in different areas on your farm also.
Well, like the Daystar area is not residential at all. It should be.
We're trying to preserve that whole, we're trying not to houses over by West 4, that whole area.
Right, but I was referring to down along the lake where the existing subdivisions are today. That's not purple and it should be.
But these are just where, these are long-range growth types. I mean, that's already, in my opinion, almost built out down in that area. Because it's so wet.
Anyway,
But yeah, we could make
that's-
that purple.
That's the input that I have. And I think there's a couple more up in the Lake Fork area, north of Heinrich Lane. You've got some significant ag production up there that's not listed. And where it's just white, what does the white area mean? It's non-designated?
It's just an area. We were just trying to show where the patterns are. All of that stuff north of Heinrich, that's a lot of the 20-acre pieces that were split off by DeBoer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a zone, it's not an overlay. This is where the residential uses have gone. I mean, most of this is split up into rural parcels. These are not overlays, they're not districts, they're just a vicinity. This is where residential uses are occurring. The same with, if you look, off West Roseberry, you're going clear up to Shaline, a lot of that is residential. We've got subdivisions at Nisula and Norwood. I know where it says Mud Creek, we could probably take that out because it's in a conservation easement.
Well, Purdum's?
Nahos.
That's on the east side or west side of Missoula.
Oh, well, I thought he had some here. Nahos is right here.
No, Nahos's is all on the west side of Missoula. The one where it says Mud Creek is all Purdum.
Is that Purdom? Well, I don't even know if he still has all of his ag designation. I haven't heard from Purdom in a long time.
So I had some of the same thoughts, and it comes back to me now that we were talking about these as kind of vicinities. We weren't going to cover all of the area. And we kind of intentionally, because we were going to make them vicinities as opposed to a zone or a district.
So
And that makes it an interesting discussion is, do we want it all filled in if they are vicinities? Or we want them to become hard lines at some point?
Careful now, you're talking zoning.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well,
And that's what we're not doing.
yeah, that's what we
Fighting words.
don't want to do, right? So
My-
that becomes your gray area, is the area that's not designated by a color.
Where, Cinda, are these maps, are these going to be located?
In the comp
In the
plan. In the land use section, and I'm going to write some narrative concerning what this is.
Okay, so, because that, I guess, is my biggest concern, is how we have to make it very clear that this is, like you just said, that these are patterns that we're seeing,
Patterns is a good word.
not anything else. Because I think that as someone flips through a comp plan and isn't looking at the fine print, this could be confusing. And I just wouldn't want it to get misconstrued down the line if we're not here, if Cinda's not here.
Oh, it'll be very clear that they are not zones, overlay districts, that they are just land use patterns
Patterns.
to try to guide people towards a certain vicinity.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and hear that again. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I like that.
It's recorded, you've got it.
And
You are
so
being
it's not
recorded.
going to be a huge thing. People aren't going to get lost in it. It's going to be a simple declaration. And we'll probably put out of the Title IX the description of what multiple use is to lead them into this with our land use zoning map that is in our comp plan.
We might want to have a discussion, I'll throw it out there, because in the past, this commission, I think, but it's been on this commission for very long, we've always said that something between Lake Fork and McCall should be designated commercial, and we could maybe have a conversation about that becoming an overlay area for
Right,
commercial.
and we talked about that, Ken and I. I'd like to really, I plead, I beg that we start here and not go into a whole new zoning district thing with this iteration of the comp plan. I really want to get a base comp plan in place, and then we can come back after we get our ordinances written and do that. But we keep adding we keep changing everything, and we're never gonna get done.
And what is your intent with that?
Oh, my intent? So that there are, I'll call it, instead of just a multi-use area where you could do anything in that area. Say this is, by creating an overlay district or zone, is we're now saying, we believe this is probably the best use for this land, so it's going to get a little more support for a commercial activity. But it doesn't mean you couldn't do anything, but just a more of a leaning, like somebody who wants to set up the next commercial business in Valley County, they would go, they're gonna look more favorably on that area for commercial business than they would in the middle of the green area.
Right, which I think that's already there. You know, I think that you see that already.
And how is that different than this?
In the yellow spot,
We wouldn't have to apply for a CUP.
no, they
And-
still would.
No, you still do.
You still would.
Yeah.
It's a commercial.
Harry, you
vicinity.
still do, because it's gonna take years to get this done.
Yeah, Cassandra doesn't want to do it right now. I think I'm just throwing out an idea for a discussion at some point in time. I agree with Cinda that it would be nice to get this other input embedded into the comp plan. Be able to start writing some of the ordinances that reflect the shell of the comp plan. And, you know, make some minor adjustments to the blob map that we have.
It's a very pretty blob map.
But anyway, let's look at our calendars and see if there's a time, either later, even this month, or we have typically had some work sessions. We've said that we've been doing like Tuesdays before the meeting, like a Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. I know that next month, first Tuesday, I'm out of state.
What Tuesday are you looking at? The 17th?
For a session?
The 18th? Oh, next month.
Oh, well,
March.
Are you looking at March or February?
I'm not opposed to doing something in February.
Oh, February 25th.
In the morning. I can do mornings. I think. I don't have my calendar sitting here.
go grab your calendar?
No.
I can do February 25th.
I think the 25th work.
My only caveat is if it snows, gotta plow snow, but I don't know that it's gonna snow the 25th or not. So,
You can just plow your way into the meeting and then plow your way back.
plow
home.
the way out,
I
yeah.
can't do the 25th, but I can do the 26th in the morning.
Hmm.
I can't do the 26th. We hear the 27th.
I can't do the 26th. I could probably make 25th work if we did it first thing.
Like an 8 o'clock till noon. Can you go till noon?
The 25th?
You hear objections from an 8 till noon work session, the 25th?
It's a long time, but I mean, if you want
Are
everybody
you
to
bringing
come talk to you.
breakfast?
Yeah,
I
he's
don't
the
know, you
chair
are?
who
You
brings
are?
breakfast.
Oh, I said, are you bringing breakfast?
You want to do it 9 o'clock?
No, that's fine.
It's great.
It's great. 8 to 11? Do we really need it all the way to noon?
Yeah, we can go till a couple hours.
Yep.
Till 10 or 11.
For the 25th?
25th works.
Does that work for you, Sendai?
3 hours is probably my attention span for.
Okay, so we'll plan till 11 o'clock. And then we'll have a discussion and then
Do you want me to invite?
I think we
I
should.
mean, if we invite these groups, it's going to consume the 3 hours.
No, they get 15 minutes.
Yeah, give them a time frame, and I think it'd be good
Can
for
we
us.
use your little thing? That'd be fantastic.
I think it would be good to give some reasoning of why some of this stuff is not going to end up in the comp plan, and yet still probably address some of the things in the ordinances, because when I read the one today, that it was it's way too detailed for the comp plan. I think it wouldn't hurt to have them there, and then we could have a discussion about the overall purpose of the comp plan, whatnot, on what kind of where we're headed, and then give them each like 15 minutes. Because you're only talking 3 entities, is that right? Fire, Cascade, Lake, and soil.
I don't even know if fire will take that long. I mean, fire is pretty
It's pretty simple.
simple.
You might give them the invite, say we don't, or say have questions for them.
Well, I'll
But we-
invite Mara. I don't want to, if I invite all the fire chiefs,
Yeah, we don't need to
We'll
take
do it for
everybody's
a
time.
Let's just have Mara do it.
Yeah.
I'll have Mara do that.
I just want to make sure they feel like we've listened to their input because there's good stuff in there.
So
just where
I'll
it
invite
falls
Mara
on
and Valley
the user.
Soil. And
And Leonard's for the reservoir, he submitted some stuff. His was actually fairly concise.
I asked him to submit something because as we look at the McCall impact area, I want to kind of get some of his expertise in some things.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and set a work session for 8 o'clock, 25th of February, go till 11. Invite the entities, give them each about 15 minutes each. And then we'll continue our time and work through those. Cinda, if you have time between now and then, if you would like to go through those comments and those suggestions and maybe make some recommendations about what should be the overarching statements in the comp plan to help capture those, to provide the foundation for them. It'd be something for us to look at. Maybe we can get this done by the time the snow melts.
And I'm even in favor of having her incorporate language into the comprehensive plan to the extent that she's comfortable with what's there. It's
Yeah.
Well, I
much
could with
easier to edit than to create. And we've got their input and her experience. I think that's, to the extent you can expedite that for the work session.
Well, I can the fire department. Well, I can the fire department.
Yeah.
And hopefully make some copies. We won't have all the tables and stuff done.
Yeah,
don't know about
maybe the
Valley
different
Soil.
points that, especially on the Valley Soil and Water one, where they have so much volume. Maybe pick out the items that you think should be in the comp plan as the overarching guide, and then put the others in the list for the ordinance.
Okay. So along with that, all these years that we've been working on the comp plan, I had a box and I went through and it's like, oh gosh, that would look great in a comp plan. And I just threw all this stuff in a box. And I went through that box and I came up with a list. You have that list.
Yes. All the bullet points.
Cool.
I was wondering if that was from
Is that what that was?
And
What I read?
so this is stuff I think will add a lot of meat to our comp plan. And I don't want to forget it, so I started creating a list. We need to make sure the North Lake long-range plan is referenced
List.
and maybe include their map. Are you following me? We need to talk about promotion of LIDs for road creation. And none of this is, we need to talk about solar and wind power not being, acceptable along the scenic byway. So I don't think anything is bizarre that I've put in this list. And then I've never seen it in a comp plan, but I don't know why we wouldn't, is maybe a chapter or a section on Valley County governance. Because we've done an internal strategic plan. Our motto is STAR, service, transparent, accountable, responsive. Complying with state statutes concerning ex parte and conflict, and just like a public education piece in the comp plan. That we're trying, one of our goals is to simplify processes and payments, and just a chapter somewhere in there. on
It should be somewhere. I don't know if it's
internal governance.
a chapter in the comp plan, but at least
for
sort of like
some-
an appendix or like an introduction or something.
Yeah, maybe in an introduction. I was thinking before population or something.
Yeah.
Just as an education piece, because we're always looking for ways to educate. And then land use, we need to talk about the Pant Land Trust and conservation easements. You know, maybe talk about creating a dark sky reserve.
It's a dark sky reserve.
It's like our
No
dark
lights.
sky ordinance, only it's, you get a designation like Blaine County did that you're an official reserve.
Oh,
You know, just stuff that makes it interesting. We're currently working with BSU on a regional resiliency assessment and strategy. Want to make sure radon's in our company.
Excuse me.
So, you know, just some stuff like that. We've got our housing needs assessment done. Let's see. There's an MOU between Central District Health and DEQ talking about TMDLs and how they work together. Maybe talk about how some of that stuff works together. Gentrification.
What
You know,
is,
you hear about gentrification of urban areas. It's also happening in these rural counties too. And I have a whole paper on it that I've picked up in my travels, in my classes I go to. The New American Gentry. I mean, I've got this whole thing. I mean, it's very interesting. It's where affluent retirees and other high-income types have descended into these remote areas. You know, and it's changing the character of our county. Not put it in there in a bad way, but just so people
just
have
acknowledge
a vision.
acknowledge that it's happening.
Right, kind of in the introduction to the housing portion.
Probably the work from home has had a bigger impact in the last 2 or 3 years
Exactly.
than most anything.
Yep. Which might be taken back now, yeah.
There's a
We'll be
migration
back
of
to work.
snowheads.
Huh?
Migration of snowheads, basically.
You know, and maybe integrate some of that stuff in here. I need to make sure that, well, I know the transportation plan. We did a report one time to the board that talked about areas where we need parking for snowmobilers and things. And maybe put that in there. I mean, because we've done a lot of work and we just need to incorporate it into this plan now. So nothing is weird here.
That's still a big issue.
It is. It's
Is it
something we need
still-
to work on.
Is it still as bad over north of Tamarack Falls as it has been?
Yes.
What about down by Cabarton?
parking, snowmobile parking.
For the rafters, it is.
Well, for Snowbank Mountain, don't they snowmobile?
They don't let
up
people
there?
up Snowbank.
Westgate
Anderson
closes.
Creek has a huge, we had, just because it was obviously a large number of trailers. We counted 85 trailers lined along West Mountain Road.
Yeah,
It's not
And
good.
we were there last weekend. It's awful.
It was
It's so
crazy.
dangerous.
You couldn't hardly get a parking lot. big
But
enough
still,
to
just
fit
to
all
get it
those
out of
trailers.
there.
So, and we need to put some of that stuff in
Yeah.
there.
I think the other one, somebody mentioned it a minute ago, but the Cabarton, where the rafters go in, is nuts.
It
It's
is.
crazy.
So tight.
You guys have been-
So nothing I would,
Yeah.
nothing I would insert into the plan, I think you guys would have any disagreement with. I'd like to start inserting some of that. Then the impact areas, we need to write some monologue on that.
Could you create maybe a separate chapter in the comp plan that would delineate some of these issues that are, I'll call them mounting and magnitude? For instance, the parking transportation plan, so that it's like future planning needs to address these things.
That's what this plan's about. Oh, so you want like an implementation list?
Well, maybe a
special
It's,
consideration.
it's like a shopping list for Valley County of things to be done in the future.
Implementation chapter
Yeah.
at the end, absolutely.
I like that idea.
That's what we have now. It's just we hardly have anything on it, but we have more needs
Well, I
now.
think you've got several of them on here that should go on that list.
Items that kind of preserve the uniqueness of Valley County, the ice fisherman parking, the snowmobile parking, the rafting parking, all of those things are
They're gonna become more and more of a
Yeah,
demand.
just gonna grow. We have to preserve them or they will become a major problem.
That one on Stonebreaker,
Breaker.
it was packed today.
They have
Yeah.
pictures.
legal one
all
or the
weekend.
legal
The,
one?
the one fishing game that bid on contract.
Yeah.
It was in the newspaper.
What was it?
Read it,
It
yeah.
was in there, yeah.
Cinda, another thing is there's getting to be more and more parking along Warm Lake Road for backcountry skiers. And if they don't always plow those parking spots open, and sometimes people are
They just
like
park on
parking
the
not in
side.
really safe spots.
Where at?
The Warm Lake Road between here and the
Some,
summit. Well, between the Forest Service boundary and up the summit.
So
You know, the road department will plow open
Between
some
here
of
and
it.
Big Creek?
The Big Creek summit.
so they'll just stop along the road and just go skiing.
Yeah, or they're parking kind of into the road, and they're using the parking spots are filling up, especially if they don't plow.
They learn to park that way at the ski resorts.
just carry it
Well,
over
they park
to
into the
public
road.
roads.
Yeah, so well, I mean, yeah, and that's,
And that hasn't come up
That's
in
one
those
of them.
winter recreational things, but it's just something we've
okay,
noticed the
we'll
last
make
couple
sure
of
we
years.
add that as one of our parking needs.
Wasn't there a parking place, or isn't there one down on Hasbrook's for cross-country skiing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that, I mean, that's close enough to the Cabarton, and like you could almost wrap them
but that's on
together.
Hasbrook's personal property that he allows that parking.
That's where the big fire camp was this year.
Right, right, right.
Huge.
But the need is still there, even though it's on private ground. It doesn't mean that it'll always be there, and maybe
That should be under the
an
recreation section.
Set that.
And the same thing like at the end of Potter Lane where he allows the access through.
Yeah, that's in
That's
the,
filling up quite a bit.
that's in this,
Yeah, for 1 year.
this
Winter
Valley
rec.
County winter recreation growing
Yeah.
parking needs and that we did.
So Cinda, how do we, as
Construction.
commissioners, best help you move forward? Because I think
So like, you want me
we
to
have a
sing
lot
it?
of, there's nothing here that you've brought forward that I'm not on the surface supportive of being included in the comprehensive plan.
You want me to sing it?
Comp plan? Well,
Got to turn me loose.
I like it. Yeah, I'm wondering if, do we need to give you more, we have a date now for the 25th.
Yeah,
That
I'll-
seems aggressive to get a lot of this incorporated in there.
Well, that, I don't think that's our last meeting.
Cinda's
but-
amazing.
I
Don't you
have no
know?
doubt of that so far.
When I get focused, a lot of this stuff I think I can get in. We'll try to get,
Why don't we,
I can focus.
I'm gonna
Add
throw out
weekends.
something that we target to try to get this done over the next 3 months. And by the 1st of May, by the May meeting, we adopt it and make recommendation to the board.
That's the goal. Lori's working on graphs and stuff like that, and statistics.
Updating the staff.
Pulling it out of woods and pools and things like that. I'm working
End
on
of
the
second
verbiage.
quarter.
Cascade wants a zero impact, by the way, just thought I'd share that.
Zero
Yeah.
impact for what?
What
I
does
saw
that mean?
that.
What does that
I
mean?
don't know what that means. What do you mean by
No
that?
impact area.
They want no impact area because they have so much infill to do.
Mm.
They've got River District, they have the subdivision across the road, they have a bunch of empty lots.
So for
Up
the
behind
county's
my house.
planning and zoning's perspective, what does that mean to,
That
what are
means
they
they're-
trying to communicate to us? Don't approve anything outside of their,
They don't think they're going to annex anything outside the city limits within the next 5 years. So they don't need an impact area because of this new state statute.
okay, got it.
Doesn't mean that things can't go, it's just that they aren't interested in annexing it. Because, they're concerned about their sewer and mostly their water. And then I listed here all of the things in the state statute that we're required to have in the comp plan. The property rights, population, school and facilities and those studies. transmission lines, housing. So this is my checklist. I want to make sure that we aren't missing stuff.
So speaking of the transmission corridors,
Mhm.
because that was added,
Southern Idaho.
well, so maybe, because of the mine in the backcountry,
Mhm.
are they going to follow existing routes for the transmission line?
I do believe they are. I'll have to look at the West Central Mountains electrical plan, and they are going to update that starting in August.
That might be something we want to address somehow.
I'll make sure that's referenced in there too.
Good. I think we got some good structure for the next work session or two. Anything else?
Let us know how we can best help you do this, and that's.
Be careful.
There's a
Be
lot
careful.
here, so we'll get you a guitar.
Okay.
Is there anything else to come before our meeting? Do we have any facts? And we don't have facts and conclusions, do we? Okay, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Somebody needs to make it.
I do want to say one other thing.
Okay,
I've reached out to Lance Holloway and Mike Reno. Lance Holloway is with DEQ, Mike Reno is with Central District Health. And we need a re-education on the TMDL, what the TMDL means, how we apply the TMDL, who's in charge of the TMDL, and just an education on it, because we have new P&Z commissioners except for Ken, and new county commissioners. So everybody needs to know exactly what this TMDL is.
we need to have them clearly delineate their authority at aquifer level, subsurface level, surface level water. And I would like to know who's responsible for each one of those zones.
And they said, Lance said that they've done a training recently somewhere, and then I haven't heard back. He knows we want that training. Mike responded, concerning NP studies. And then Lance got off onto the WAG in the Payette Lake, but. Okay,
Do we need a working session with the municipalities in Valley County? So like Cascade, where we talk about no impact zone,
as, county commissioners are doing that.
county commissioners are doing. Okay.
We already had a recommendation from the P&Z, and then they changed the state statute, and the county commissioners are taking care of those impact
They're
areas.
doing that portion.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
So the recommendation we made 6 months ago or so, those maps are
A year ago.
a year ago. Sorry, time
I'm
flies.
sorry, Sasha Childs was still on here.
Oh, you're kidding.
No,
That's
so
been a
we're
while.
talking 2 years.
So those maps are being amended by the county commissioners with the cities in negotiations with the new law.
Yeah, based upon the new law.
Okay, good.
I think, well, Cascade wants 0, Donley, we're pulling back the east boundary.
Right.
Um,
Do you anticipate any other changes on McCall's?
yes.
There'll be some. And is there any of that that specifically belongs in the comprehensive plan that we need to direct wording towards?
Yes, I will be
How we
writing
work
something to address where we used to be, what caused the change, and the current impact areas. And that, I'll know a lot more March 10th. 'Cause that's the meeting the board has with McCall.
Make sure that if you have multiple maps in there that show the changes, make sure it's really clear that this is the current one.
We've asked them to tell us what they're going to annex within 5 years. At our September 27th meeting with them.
So March 10th is City of McCall and County Commissioners.
Yes.
Okay.
Or should any of those be joint sessions?
With the P&Z? No, if you read the state code, it excludes P&Z from the impact area. If we change comprehensive plans or ordinances, P and Z is involved. But the board is solely responsible for the negotiation of those lines and adoption of the map.
Okay, of setting the lines.
Yes.
Right. But the ordinances in the impact areas are still the counties? Or are they the cities?
That is between the Board of County Commissioners and the City of McCall.
Have them let us know how that comes out.
March 10th.
Maybe in the paper.
So,
All right, anything else before the
Yeah.
commission this evening? Is there a motion to adjourn?
motion.
Been moved, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.